The people we think of as experts, they're not, they don't teach because they're experts, right? We think of them as experts because they teach.
How does a person answer why something happens?
When you look at the findings in different fields,
Scant is the part of life in which we live.
To attain the highest values.
And I'd love for you to talk more about this when it says, teach everything you know. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I got started in the early days on the web. That's not really accurate. We're talking like 2007, maybe 2008, so early days for me.
For blogging and
Yeah, and I kept following these people that I was like, couldn't figure out the difference between those who had like a large audience, a lot of attention, all of that, and like me. So the example that really stood out to me was this guy named Chris Coyer who ran CSStricks.com. And I was a web designer, he was a web designer, and I remember reading his stuff and going like, there's nothing new here. Like, I already know all of this, and I'm like only intermediate. And then like over time, he would write more, and I'd be like, I knew that too. It's like this little pat on the back almost of like, come on, who's this guy blogging about it? Like, he's not an expert. I'm more of an expert than he is, or at least the same level. And then over time, his posts got good. Maybe I learned a little bit from it, but like a coworker would ask a question, and I'd like, instead of answering that, like, go read this article that Chris wrote, And so I'd link to his stuff and all of that. And then he ran this Kickstarter campaign, and I saw it come out, and I was like, what? This doesn't make sense. You can't do this, because he was basically like, I want to take a month off of work to redesign my site, like CSStricks.com. And if you back this campaign, I'm trying to raise $3,500. And if you back this campaign, then I will like create tutorials and all of that of the whole process of redesigning and relaunching the site, and you'll get access to that. And you'll be like supporting me as I get to do this indie creator thing. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, maybe he'll his $3,500. So I watch it. He raises like, I don't remember the exact number, $87,000 or something insane like that. And this is about a time where I was like, still following the audience, like early on, I didn't have my own audience, and I was so confused because he and I were both web designers. We were both pretty good at what we did, troubleshooting IE6 browser bugs, like absolutely, we got that on lockdown. And he had this ability to like flip a switch and make $87,000, and I didn't at all. So I was like, what's the difference between us? It's not our skill level, because I'm like, I'm just as good of a web designer as he is. And so that's when I realized that like it was that he taught and I didn't. So we have a client project, dive in, do the project, run into some obstacle. You learn how to solve that. You implement the solution, move on, apply that learning to the next project. He followed the same process. He just wrote a blog post in there. That was really the only difference of the thing that he learned. And I realized he was teaching everything that he knew, like just as he went. He wasn't no one came down and was like, Chris, you are God's gift to web designers. Please share this knowledge with the world. He was just like some guy who was like, I learned this thing, might be useful to you. And then he became more and more popular and internet famous. And so I had this realization that the people we think of as experts, they're not, they don't teach because they're experts, right? We think of them as experts because they teach. I had it backwards. I was waiting for someone to say like, Nathan, you're the expert, please teach this thing. And in reality, you just need to teach everything you know, even if it's like something simple that you learned 30 minutes ago, and you're not some expert in it. And instead you teach that, share it with the world. And like that builds this, this trail of breadcrumbs of what you're learning. People follow that. And then like after a while, they're like, wow, you are the expert on this subject. And you're like, I mean, kind of. That's how I feel about audience building now. People are like, you know so much about audience building. How did you learn all this? And it's like, I just did things and I left breadcrumbs along the way. And you do that for 3, 5, 8 years. And then there's like 25,000 people or 50,000 people who are like following you as the expert on that thing. Yeah. And it really just comes down to that one principle of teach everything you know.
Yeah.